everyone. Please meet Adriano Lo Turco, Senior Market Analyst from Agrosonsult. Since our last interview, 3 months has passed, so today we will discuss what changes this brought to the Brazilian soybean crop. Hello, Adriano.
Hi, Marina. Good to see you here again. A very challenging year in terms of soybean crop in Brazil. But it's good to hear with you to share a little bit our view of what's happening in Brazil.
There is a very large difference between estimates of the soybean harvest in Brazil from 135 to 157 million tons, which is more than 20 million tons of difference. How would you explain it, and what is your estimate?
Well, Marina, I think the main reason to see this difference is that we have had problems with weather since early crop in Brazil. So since October, November and December, weather mainly in Mato Grosso and central west of Brazil was very detrimental and led to very different analysis of what is happening in Brazil. Our view at this moment is that the crop, considering what happened so far and the forecast for the next days, is that we will have a crop, a soybean crop in Brazil of 153.8 million tons. But generally speaking, I think what led to this big difference is that the first stage of the crop had very poor yields, which some people are expecting that this condition to continue. And what we see here is that we accept that we had problems in the early stage, but from now the situation is improving, and we might lead us to a better situation in the coming weeks and months. So far we are comfortable with our number.
Please tell us more about the weather conditions for the soy crop in Brazil, how they changed month by month, and what effect it had on the crops.
Well, as I mentioned before, October, November, and December, mainly October and November, the weather was very dry and it's extremely hot, with temperatures in some days above 40 Celsius degrees in Mato Grosso and other regions, okay? And we had periods of more than 15 days without rains, in some cases close to 30 days without rains, with very hot temperatures, very high temperatures. This is happened normally, but not at the time of the year, okay? So that was the main reason for poor yields in the early planted beans. From mid-October, mid to late December, to early January, the situation improved and conditions got a little bit better. And the mid to late planted crop is developing, let's say, average, some areas a little bit better. So the situation improved, but it wasn't, we hadn't time enough to get all the crop in good condition. So that's why we will have fields with very low yields, and other farms, and sometimes fields side by side that was planted 20, 30 days later with very different and wild variety and range of yields in some areas in Brazil.
Please compare your current crop estimate with the previous years. Which season is the most similar to this one in terms of the impact of weather conditions on the soybean crop?
Well, it's very hard to compare this crop to others, because we have never had this such a severe weather problems in Mato Grosso, which is the main producing state in Brazil. We can compare with 14-15 crop, when the situation was very bad in Goiás state, but Mato Grosso was okay. 21-22, southern states like Paraná, Rio Grande do Sul, and also Mato Grosso do Sul had very bad situation and poor yields. But we had never had this situation happen in the main states of Brazil. So that's why it's very difficult to compare this crop to others, because in Mato Grosso that situation had never had, and even more with such a deep weather conditions as we had this past 3 months. Okay, so that's why we are seeing a crop that is losing only in Mato Grosso most of the problems we had. Mato Grosso also have a very problem that led to a replanting in several, more than 1 million hectares had to be replanted in Mato Grosso.
You have mentioned Mato Grosso state, and what is the situation in other states?
Other states, we can divide Brazil mainly in 3 main regions this year. Okay, we had Center-West, where we have Mato Grosso, Goiás, and Mato Grosso do Sul. Mato Grosso and Goiás are quite similar. Northern part of Mato Grosso do Sul, very close to Mato Grosso and Goiás, which are the early beans with very poor conditions. Okay, going south of Mato Grosso, Paraná, and Rio Grande, we had a very good start, and late December, early January, Paraná had problems, which made us to cut our estimates to some losses, but not as bad as Mato Grosso. But we have to compare that planted Paraná, the part that planted earlier had problems. The part that planted late is not so bad. So we had a very, again, very wide range of estimates and yields we'll see. And then we have Mapito region, that it's up north to Brazil, that plant later. So far the crop had problems, but not as bad as Mato Grosso. But as I said, as it was late planted, we still need to wait a few more weeks to see how weather will develop. We are already expecting some losses because of El Niño, but probably not as bad, or we expect and we hope not as bad as in Mato Grosso.
What was the total initial soybean acreage in Brazil, and what percentage was replanted due to the bad weather, and what is the current estimate of acreage?
We are working with 45.7 million hectares, which is about 1.3 million hectares above last year. In terms of percentage, we are talking about almost 3% more acreage than last year. Okay. Generally speaking, we are considering that almost 3 million hectares had to be replanted, which is equivalent to 6.5% of the total acreage had to be replanted. Okay. Only in Mato Grosso, the main stage that had replanted beans was Mato Grosso, with, as I had mentioned, 1 million hectares, 8.5% of the total acreage, and Goiás, with 360,000 hectares being replanted, which represents almost 9% of the total area replanted in Goiás state.
Have sales of the new crop already started? Please tell us about the current prices and compare with past seasons.
Generally speaking, we can say that 31% of the crop is already sold by farmers. Okay, but in terms of prices, this is more or less equal to what we had last year, but is very undersold comparing to the past 5 years. Okay, in terms of price, last year we already had a very big drop in terms of prices for farmers, and this year we have even bigger drop in prices. We can say that generally speaking, in Mato Grosso, prices came from 140 average of last year, and we are seeing prices below 100 reais per bag in Mato Grosso. In Paraná state, the same situation. We had prices averaging of 160, 150 reais per bag last year, and currently we are having prices close to 105, 110 reais per bag. So generally speaking, about 50 reais below last year, depending on each state we are talking. So because of prices are much lower, farmer selling is very slow in Brazil at the moment, and farmers are expecting a bounce in prices to restart selling their beans again.
What is your estimate of soybean exports? Do you expect a new record?
No, it's gonna be very hard to see the record, or to hit or to beat the record we had last year. Last year, Brazil exported almost 102 million tons, and this year we expecting no more than 95 million tons being exported from Brazilian ports during 2024. So generally speaking, we are talking about almost 7 million tons less than last year.
What are the main export directions, and will there be any changes compared to the last year?
I got some numbers here just for our reference. Southern ports in Brazil, which means Santos going south of Brazil, represents more or less 65% of the exports, and the northern arch represents 35%. Okay, I expect not a big changes. Maybe northern arch lose a little bit, because the biggest losses we are seeing at the moment are in the northern states. So we can see some losses, but it's not a big change. Maybe 2-3% plus minus for each side. But I think this pattern is well established in Brazil, and if we look back last 3-4 years, hasn't changed much.
And what will be the main importers of Brazilian soybean?
China will continue to be the main importer. Last year, China was responsible for almost 70% of the Brazilian exports, and they should continue to be the main destination of Brazilian soybeans during this year again. China is very quiet in the market in the last 25-30 days. Farmers in Brazil are expecting them to come back to see if the demand push prices up again, but we are not seeing that. But there is no doubt that China will continue to lead the exports from Brazil, at least in terms of soybeans.
Thank you very much for such interesting insights. Can't wait to hear your thoughts about the corn crop, but that will be in our next interview. Thank you, Adriano.
Thank you. I hope we next time we bring better news. As I mentioned in the beginning, it has been a very challenging year for crop estimates and for market analysts to see and to forecast what's going to happen in Brazil. So let's hope that at least with corn we have a simpler life for the coming months. Okay, thank you guys, thank you Marina, and it was a very big pleasure.